Episode 121, first day in Bradenton for Bucko Banter. We discuss game recaps and reports from minor league camp. You're listening to the Bucko Banter podcast, brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue music.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plate, send in case after case. Run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Welcome back to another episode of Bucko Banter. This is our first live, technically, together. I mean, we did the Chuck Tanner Day up in Newcastle, but we're here together in spring training. We got Sax Boy over here with us. We got our friend Debo here. Good
Whole
first
production
day.
crew, yeah.
Yeah, whole production crew. Good first day here at the Content House in Bradenton.
Long day. Yeah, this is our first time recording a regular Bucko Banter episode in person. It feels right. It feels good. I think the future is bright when it comes to us finding a recording space, getting together, talking Bucko baseball.
Yeah.
I think this is what the future is going to hold. But for now, we got the Content House, and it's going to be a fun start. Today was a long day in Bradenton. As you mentioned, Sax Boy is here. We saw him multiple times today, even when we didn't mean to see him.
It's so funny.
And he's over here on the couch. He's grinning and smiling, and he's doing whatever he does over there.
Yellow windbreaker on a bicycle.
Right. We're in a totally different state. We're 900 miles away from Pittsburgh, 903 to be exact. And who do we see while we're driving into the Content House on a bike?
Sax Boy Billy.
When we go to Lecom Park to go pick stuff up from the office, who do we see driving away on a bike, recording himself on a cell phone?
In that bright yellow windbreaker, Sax Boy Billy.
And then again, on our way home from Pirate City today, who do we see?
Sax Boy Billy.
He's everywhere. He's inevitable.
He is inevitable.
It's crazy. But we had a long day. We had a 7 a.m. flight. We got down here. We dropped our stuff off at the Airbnb, and then we went right to Pirate City.
Yeah. It was a exhausting day, man. We got up at like what? We left the Strip District today at 5:15. Got down here around 10, I think. 10-ish, right?
Yeah.
Probably slightly before that. And then we hit the ground running, man. We went straight to Pirate City, and kind of an exciting day too, because we got some credentials.
Yeah. Don't think we've said it on the pod yet because we wanted to make sure that it was really real. But we got credentialed for spring training. So we were behind the scenes at Pirate City, which pretty much it's already behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Enough. If you're just a regular person, say regular person, geez, oh man, get credentialed one
Yeah.
day. If you're just a Pirates fan and you want to go watch minor league camp, you can go and pretty much stand in the dugout. So there really wasn't much difference in terms of like credentials, except for a little bit more breathing room. Time to walk around a little bit. We got to go through the clubhouse and behind the scenes, all great. We saw a ton of cool stuff.
Yeah.
At minor league camp. We saw some big leaguers at minor league camp. We saw some power. We saw some guys throwing absolute gas, some major league level types of defensive plays. But there was also a major league spring training game that happened today.
There was, which is, I'm sure the front office that we saw most of them there today at Bradenton, Pirate City, were happy that they didn't travel down to Fort Myers today, because that wasn't, I mean, it's, again, results aren't everything in spring training, but it definitely wasn't a fun game to watch if you're looking for results as a Pirates fan.
15-3 down in Fort Myers against the Twins. Let's pull a couple of the positives away first. Derek Hall, 2 RBIs on the day, hit a homer. Matt Gorski hit another home run. The legend of Matt Gorski continues in the spring of 2025 in the 9th inning. So that's been the entire discussion around Matt Gorski, right? A lot of fans who look at the box score say, hey, this guy's hit 4 or 5 home runs this spring. He should be getting playing time. Who's this Matt Gorski kid? He's a 27-year-old career minor leaguer who this is probably his last shot. And this is his best shot to make the team because he has versatility. He could play first base. He could play outfield. But has he really been tested?
Yeah.
Compared to the results that we're seeing.
We talked about this a little bit earlier. Like, this is the big opportunity, especially with Spencer Horwitz going down for the short term. This is a big opportunity for Matt Gorski to get some, big league at bats. And it seems like he's not really being tested much. Like he's still in big league camp and he's still getting into games, but he's facing a lot of AA, AAA, like minor league guys, and he's not facing the big league arms. And I think that's something that they should be doing with him. I mean, you got Derek Hall up there. This is a competition. First base is a competition, and Matt Gorski's name should be in it.
Right. You're trotting out Adam Frazier to get reps at first base. And I understand you have to get everybody at bats. It doesn't necessarily mean that Adam Frazier is going to be the first baseman. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get a single inning at first base. You got to get guys a certain amount of at bats. Some of them are required to get a certain amount of at bats. I know Tommy Pham said he told the Pirates he wants 50 at bats going into the season. So you got to find ways to get your major league guys, your guys on the 40-man who are going to make this roster ramped up. Where do you fit Matt Gorski in that equation? It's kind of hard to tell because I think our organization already knows what type of player Matt Gorski is. The swing is extremely unconventional. It's all over the place. It's funky. It's not conducive to hitting a guy who's going to spot you up, right? Or execute his secondary pitches. If you leave a meatball over the plate, he's going to crush it because everything goes behind that barrel.
More the reason to get him those at-bats, those challenging at-bats.
Right, because if he can do that same thing, then maybe it's not a fluke and maybe he's found a way to generate power at a higher level, which the Pirates so desperately need. But it's also sad because outside of, if you're considering Matt Gorski a guy who's almost there, behind him, then who is it?
I feel like Matt Gorski is kind of in similar competition to I don't want to say similar, but he's more in competition with a guy like Billy Cook.
Sure.
Because Billy Cook provides that right-handed bat that provides versatility at first base and in the outfield and can play the outfield pretty well.
I would rather Billy Cook.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Billy Cook's getting more of those challenging at-bats. Getting those starts, Matt Gorski isn't. So it kind of tells you where they stand in the pecking order. But that being said, given this is Gorski's kind of last shot, and this is a genuine competition, no matter where you think he stands, he's still in big league camp. He should be getting some of these at-bats, some of these starts to see what he can do.
Especially if he's going to be in big league camp on March 13th.
Yeah.
We're 2 weeks away from the regular season. We're 2 weeks away. So is he going to stick it out, or is this something maybe you see him in the first couple of weeks? We know opening day roster is not necessarily going to be the same a week from when they go to Miami, right? Does he stick around? I don't know. I don't buy it. I think we've gone through the Matt Gorski trials, and it is what it is. I'd rather take a gamble on Billy Cook. I'd rather take a gamble on Nick York playing the outfield or getting reps at first base, although I know it hasn't been pretty this spring. Outside of the bats, Jared Jones had another great outing in spring training.
Yeah.
You want to walk us through the line here?
Yeah, we were sitting at big league or at Pirate City with Anthony Murphy, by the way. Shout out Anthony Murphy. We interviewed him this past Sunday. Got to meet him in person finally, but we were following the game slightly, and he was showing me that Jared Jones was dealing there through the first three, and his final line was 4 1/3, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 4 Ks. He threw 64 pitches. They stretched him out. They let him go through into the 5th inning. The fastball slider, stuff plus wise, sat at 110 and 111 respectively. That's above average, but they didn't provide the best results. The changeup actually, which sat at 100 stuff plus, looked excellent in the 8 or 9 times he threw it out of 64 pitches. So only a handful of times, but still, it's good to see that third pitch that he's trying to hone in on prior to the season is providing some good results. Although the fastball slider didn't provide a lot of or produce a lot of swing and miss. The fastball sat at 95.8, so sitting at 96. The slider sat at about 88. The changeup was at 91. The stuff looked good. It was just one of those days where the fastball slider, the Twins were seeing it well.
I'm just happy he's made this adjustment.
Yeah.
Right. Because last year we're talking about where is Jared's room to grow. And obviously it's adding to that arsenal, because if you remain a 2-pitch, there's very few guys that have a long, successful career as a starter with 2 pitches. That has reliever written all over it. Think what is Colin Holderman throws a fastball slider,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a lot of guys at the back end of pens that can execute those for an inning or two. But when you're going through a lineup 3 or 4 times, you start to pick up on that. So he made that next adjustment, right? And that helps with his tunneling, which was another thing that we were concerned about. How does he take his game to the next level? So these are things that we're starting to see that are going to contribute to the maturation process that is Jared Jones.
Yeah.
And getting to that next level and being a true number 2, because we talk about it all the time. Like, he's scary.
Yeah.
He can be as good as he wants to be. He's his toughest critic. So a lot of times when we go into these spring training games and you hear his post games interviews, it's, oh, I don't know if this pitch sucked or, it wasn't like on my best, but he looks good. He kills spring training. I think this is going to carry over. And most importantly, he is not going to be somebody who gets up there and has to heavily rely on either a fastball or a slider or, the curveball that he would drop in every once in a while and then resort to just trying to gas it up and throw. He becomes more of a pitcher, right?
Yeah.
He's able to dissect a hitter from the right side and the left side a little bit more efficiently than he would last year. So I think all around, if we're looking at positives to find and pull from this spring training, if we're really pulling teeth, he's been one of the few.
Absolutely. I think we came into spring training and we had the interview with Noah like every other Sunday as we had all off season. Noah had mentioned that first bullpen had looked sort of bad, and Jared was showing a lot of emotion and was frustrated, but we knew going into the spring that Jared was working on that third pitch, was working on expanding the repertoire. So to see the results come through the game settings, like he's looked good in every start that he's had in spring. I would venture to say, would you not?
Yeah.
And not many guys in this league can be Spencer Strider, can have 2+ pitches and can
be elite
multiple times through an order like that. Usually that you become a reliever at some point with that. So I'm really encouraged by Jared. I think he's going to have a really big year. And I think last year, when he went down on the IL, I think that kind of took him out of his groove. And I think we're going to see finally a full year, God willing, of Jared Jones. And I'm really excited for it. He's one guy that I'm just like not really even thinking about or worried about going into this season.
No, last of my concerns. I really haven't thought about the pitching staff, and maybe I should start thinking about it a little bit more because Bailey Falter didn't throw today because of discomfort from playing catch the day before on their off day. Did Noah say it was more precautionary than anything? It's not a big deal, but this is why you stack up on arms. You lost Oviedo. You can't afford to lose Falter now because if you do, who's next up in line?
It's Burrows. Probably.
It has to be Burrows, and we're going to talk about Burrows in a little bit. He didn't look terrible today, and I think he could be a legitimate back end rotation guy in this league.
Yeah,
for years to come. But is he ready for that spot when you have Bailey Falter, who's coming off a really good year? You added a veteran in Andrew Haney. If one of those guys goes down, or more, God forbid, more of them go down, if Bailey Falter were to go down, if Andrew Haney would go down, God forbid any of the other names I'm not even going to mention, you're between a rock and a hard place, man. Because, like, are you ready for Ashcraft?
No, Ashcraft's not ready to start, right? Like, he's being ramped up pretty slow.
But they're going to stick with if we know the Pirates with pitching, they're going to stick to a plan. They did it with Skeens perfectly last year. I mean, they stuck with it, even though people were calling from him earlier. They had a plan, they stuck to it, and he was the best rookie maybe of all time.
Yeah, no, he had a tremendous rookie season, but like I think before starting Thomas Harrington or Bubba Chandler on that opening day roster, they're going to turn to a bullpen.
Yeah.
If it's not Mike Burrows, it's going to be Caleb Ferguson. Can you get us 4 innings before we turn to our bullpen?
Yeah.
Carmen Modzinski, let's see what you got. Can you get us 4 innings? Because I think the bullpen is deep.
It's their strength, yeah.
It's their strength.
Which we said last year.
But I which brings us into our next topic here. We're going to get into the bullpen a little bit because I think there is reason to worry a little bit about our top dog, David Bednar.
Yeah.
He had a rough outing today, and I don't really care about the ERA. Everyone's 12.46 ERA, blah, blah, blah. Like, Like that's the last thing I want to talk about because he's thrown 7 innings in the
Right.
spring. So one bad outing is going to blow up that ERA. I'm more so worried about the lack of strike throwing that we saw at the beginning of last year when he wasn't ramped up. So I don't know if it's a psychological thing or if there is an underlying health condition here, but I think regardless of whatever it is, we have a reason to worry about
David Bednar.
Bednar.
I've said it in the past. If David Bednar goes and this bullpen goes, we have nothing to worry about. I think he can jump back to form. Last year was an outlier. But I've also said a billion times on this podcast and other podcasts, there's a revolving door of rotators in Major League Baseball for a reason. Your bullpen is never going to be the same almost every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be a guy jumping around. You don't want that to be your closer when you have a dominant closer. We've seen teams go to closer by committee and have it work. But ideally, you don't want to do that if you have a guy who is a 2-time All-Star, who used to be dominant, who you could absolutely count on to come in and shut the door. A 3rd inning pitch, 3 hits, 5 earned, 2 walks today. It's the strike throwing.
Yeah.
Because we saw it last year when he wasn't able to consistently stay in the zone and get that fastball at the top of the zone and then drop in that nasty curveball that he has. He just leaves it middle.
Yeah.
And he doesn't throw hard. I mean, he can gas it up at times, but he's not a Roldis Chapman.
No.
He can't get away on just pure stuff, on pure velo. And I mean, Chapman is throwing 105, and let's pray to God it hits the black of the plate. But it's a concern because if he is not the closer, they're not going to keep him on as long as a leash as they did last year. I would hope not. I mean,
absolutely not.
They can't.
You can't.
If that's not the case, then who steps into that role? And we've talked about Nicholas, and we've talked about Majinski being potentially a high leverage guy. Dennis Santana could be a high leverage guy. I think you're kind of betting. Well, yeah, you're betting on committee at that point because there's no guy that I think you could say, hey, yeah, he is now ready to be a closer. He might have closer stuff and he might have closer potential a couple of years from now. Kyle Nicholas.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want Kyle Nicholas to be my everyday closer right now.
I know I don't want to bet on it. I think Kyle Nicholas is the future closer of this organization. But you do have guys that have high leverage experience. You have Tim Asa has high leverage experience. Colin Orderman has high leverage experience. Justin Lawrence, I know like the guy had a 6-some ERA last year or whatever in Colorado, but like his splits outside of Coors Field were a lot different. And he's a guy that who came off a really good 2023. The arm slot's funky and he's kind of like Adam Ottavino-ish because the stuff just moves so much. So like I don't consistency might be an issue, but he does have that experience where you could use him at times in those positions. So it's Bednar, we don't have the luxury this year of going into year 2 of Paul Skeens and letting him figure it out in the season. We can't do that. And I'm interested to see how the Pirates handle that situation because we have no more time to waste.
No, 0. You got to hope that this lineup can put up more than 2 runs and that the bullpen can shut the door at the end because if you're taking away 76 and 86 last year, the past 2 years, let's take away 5 blown saves by Bednar and then assume Paul Skeens started the year last year. How many more wins is that? Is it a 500 team? Is it above 500 team? Is this team in the wild card? I know they weren't good last year. I know the offense was treacherous at points, but like we're teetering a fine line of like mediocrity compared to competing in NL Central, which is not a tall task to do.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on a lot of different variables. I know Derek Shelton's preaching on winning in the margins, but what exactly are those margins? Can we do the little things right?
Discussion.
It's a whole nother podcast, but let's get into the complex. Had the pleasure of watching multiple games at the complex today on the backfields. We saw some major leaguers. Mike Burrows should be the first name that we get into because he could potentially be a back end starter for this team, a long man guy, a bullpen guy.
We'll see him this year.
We'll see him this year. He was sitting 95 today, which is really good to see from him. The changeup looked good as always. Kind of got tagged a little bit. He got hit hard at times. Got unlucky. Some guy laid down a bunt on his first pitch. You hear people saying, like, oh, what a scumbag. Like, just let the guy get his work in. He saw the guy off on a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. Absolute firewood, broken bat everywhere. And it just fell in for a double. Yeah. So there's nothing you can do about that. I didn't think he looked terrible. It's obviously not what he wanted.
Some bad luck.
Yeah, just bad luck, but good. And then we saw Endy Rodriguez.
Dude, Endy has a couple hard hits, but the one that stuck out to me, he was on the left side, and he hit. If you've been to Pirate City, they have like these high fences behind their actual wall that go up, I don't know, like maybe 30 feet or something like that. Just guessing here. Line drive right center, like hit off this wall.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just smoked off the bat, and it just seemed like he had some really quality plate presence and at bats, and the ball was really flying off of his bat today. So that was really good to see. We also saw Peggy. Peggy was there. Some other big league guys, or former big league guys.
Peggy swing, man, it concerns me. I just don't know why. I'm not like I'm our hitting guy, but I'm not like I'm not a guru or anything. But when we talk to people who we trust around the league, or people who just look at swings for a living behind the scenes, or the advanced metric guys, it's almost the same thing that everybody says. It's this weird hitch that goes in his swing where he's able to hit the ball hard, but he gets beat on anything off speed. He gets behind. If you look at his swing, it's like the load goes back and then there's like a quick drop before he goes. It's not fluid in any way. So it's stop, start, stop, start. I like Peggy. I think he can provide decent defense. He can provide a splash play, and he can hit the ball hard at times, but it's just not consistent enough to cut this roster.
Yeah, I think he's a quality guy.
Yeah.
It's looking more and more. I'm not seeing enough adjustments in terms of like, the quality of contact against off speed, or contact at all against off speed pitches. That's been his bugaboo in the high minors here. So something to watch as well. We saw some other guys, in the backfields. We had two games going on. We had on field 4, we had a lot of AAA guys. We're playing the Royals in both settings. Yep. They play the Royals a lot. They're like 10 minutes down the road in Sarasota. And then on field 1, they had like AA guys, but there was also some much younger guys, like complex guys there too. So a little bit of a mix. Jack Brannigan
hit the ball hard.
You saw his wheels. He's really fast.
Yeah.
We saw some guys throwing some heat.
Nick Samillo went deep.
That was crushed.
Absolutely crushed. It was funny too because they rolled the inning over. Yeah. They said one more batter and then they rolled it over. So everybody's just walking off the field as if they got a third out, and he's still rounding the bases, which is kind of funny to see. You saw Wyatt Sanford, recent second-round pick, right? Yeah. Get some playing time today. He got hit by a pitch, got jammed, got an infield single, stole a bag. He's fast. So nice to see the young guys. Didn't get to see Connor Griffin. Hopefully we see him more tomorrow.
He was there in the morning apparently, but Sanford's a guy that I wanted to see. We were talking to Murph about this. I want to see the bat because we know he can pick it at short. Like he was probably the best prep glove at least in last year's draft. He had seen some BP of his prior, or heard of the BP, and said it was impressive. It stood out. So that's something to watch this year too, because Stanford will probably be on the complex. He'll be in Bradenton this year.
Yeah.
And if that bat can do any damage at all, man, with that glove,
he sticks at short.
Yeah. He's absolutely sticking at short. So he's someone to watch. Someone I want to outline that I was really looking forward to seeing and was impressed by might be my pick to click this year in the minors. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but let's just say for now, Edward Florentino. He's a guy, when we had Murph on Sunday, I was just like, tell me about him, because I don't know anything about him. He's an 18-year-old who was in the DSL last year. Big-bodied guy, man. He's like 6'2", 6'3", maybe. He's probably destined for a corner. He's got a lot of projection left for an 18-year-old.
He's toolsy, man.
Toolsy. The swing is nice.
He had some major league takes today.
Yeah, and hit the ball hard. He stole a base, like it showed some speed. He's a guy that I feel like gives me the same type of feeling when I saw Johnny Severino last year. I was like, Johnny Severino, like, was a really good pickup for this front office.
A steal.
And he's a bat that one of the few bats in this system that I'm actually really excited for, because we know this system is full of arms, but the bats are, there's a lot left to be desired. So I think Florentino's going to enter that conversation sooner rather than later.
Yeah, for me it was. We saw Brendan Dixon, by the way, make an incredible play today. Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a lot to be desired with the bat, but an absolute dime of a play. At third base. But for me, Isaiah Uribe, left-handed pitcher, 22 years old, 97 from the left-hand side.
Effortless.
Just absolute gas. He was 95 to 97. He threw a nasty changeup that was like in the upper 80s, low 90s, coming off of an off year where he had surgery, so he didn't play.
He didn't pitch it all last year, right?
No, didn't pitch it all last year, but 90. That's crazy. You got a guy lefty who's barely played 97 from the left side, doesn't necessarily know where it's going. At times, but you could fix that.
Yeah, he was we were standing right behind the track man with Murph while he was pitching, and we were watching it for him. Man, he was consistently on the fastball at 96, 97, and then I think a couple changeups came in the low 90s. I mean, it was pretty effortless too. And I was like, I don't know anything about this Uribe guy in our system, but he's the name to watch this year too, because he was out last year, and I'm assuming he was down in DSL. Will probably be up on the complex this year. He's 22.
Yeah, 22.
This is a type of guy, 22 years old, coming off an injury, that they're going to try to challenge this year. Probably. I would not be surprised if you see him at an affiliate like Greensboro.
I'm excited, man. Yeah. See the breakout game tomorrow. We're going to be up in Clearwater, and then we're coming back for the game against the Tigers at 6 at Lecom. We'll be credentialed again. We'll be behind the scenes, hoping to get a lot of cool content to share with everybody before the season starts. And then on Saturday, another game at Lecom. So a lot of baseball already.
Yeah, tomorrow's gonna be crazy. I'm really excited to see Bubba and Connor and a bunch of guys up in Clearwater tomorrow, and then we're gonna race back, like you said, to Lecom so we can get some on-field content. We got Andrew Heaney pitching against Kyder Montero for the Tigers, 6:00 game in Bradenton, and I'm excited to get some content there, and then just to see a few guys on the big league level. So busy Friday, and then a busy Saturday, obviously, but a lot of baseball content coming your way.
Go subscribe on YouTube at Bucko Banter. Make sure you share it, leave a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about going into the season. You already know, go follow on all social media. Go to buckobanter.com. Get your gear for opening day. It's starting to get warm in Pittsburgh. We got some dry fits.
Yeah.
Got some nice work polos that are dry fits. Adidas. They're legit.
Very comfortable.
I'm going to wear them to work all the time.
I did this week, actually. It was
Yeah? It was nice in Pittsburgh.
It was. It started to warm up finally.
Good stuff. So get your Bucko Banter gear. Follow on socials, YouTube. If you're streaming it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you download the episodes, leave a 5-star review. That helps us out a ton. We appreciate everybody. And until next time, raise it.
Raise it.
Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates, or the steak by the plates and